Here are the top 10 most haunted places in Washington with their scariest tales. Subscribe Blink News if you love to watch American haunted places. Number 1. The Black Diamond Cemetery. Tucked into an evergreen vale in Black Diamond, Washington, lies the Black Diamond Cemetery, established in 1884 for miners who perished in a series of devastating mining disasters. The ground holds over 1,200 graves, including those lost to Lawson mine explosions in 1902 and 1910, and epidemics like smallpox and influenza. On foggy nights, visitors claim to see lantern-like lights drifting above headstones, hear mournful whistles, and witness a phantom white horse trotting amid crypts. Some experience sudden chills, pinwheels spinning in still air, whispers from empty shadows forcing belief that these grounds are more than historic. They're haunted. Story 1. The freezing presence. Late one autumn evening, around midnight, a group of 5 teenagers dared each other to visit the cemetery under a pale moon. Shadows lengthened between the cedars as they crossed the creaking iron gate, their flashlights flickering. It wasn't long before the back two, Jacob and Mia, felt a life-draining cold flood through their spines, freezing them in place. Jacob, voice barely a whisper, asked, "Did you feel that?" Mia nodded, too stunned to move. Suddenly they saw it. A little girl standing silently where they had felt the ice. She wore a worn white dress, hair tangled and damp, features blurred as though neither fully present nor entirely gone. The girl's eyes were distant, sorrowful, and then she raised her hand and vanished before their eyes. Chaos followed. Screams echoed as the group fled, panic-stricken, racing to their car. But even after they escaped, Mia felt that presence at home on her shoulder, on the edge of her bed, and woke the next morning with a deep ache in her chest that lingered for days. When they later shared their experience on Haunted Places forums, others confirmed similar sensations of being watched, chilled, and touched by something unseen. Story 2. The Lantern and the Lost Miner. It started simple. A pair of amateur ghost hunters brandishing EMF meters and infrared cameras set out one foggy night to capture evidence. They'd heard tales of lantern apparitions and whispered growls echoing through the graves. At first, nothing happened. That was until they edged toward the south end, near a cluster of Lawson mine memorials. Out of the murk drifted a faint, flickering glow like a lantern swinging in a distant tunnel. It bobbed gently, then drifted closer, illuminating soggy markers and twisted roots with an otherworldly glow. Their EMF devices spiked, heartbeats pounded. Suddenly the hum turned into a soft whistle, hollow, deliberate. The lantern grew brighter. Then silence. Panicked, one of them called out, "Can you hear us?" No answer, only a tight, empty breeze that extinguished the EMF meter. Their cameras flickered and blacked out. When power snapped back a moment later, the lantern was gone. Still, on playback, one clip revealed something uncanny. Streaks of drifting light over the cemetery's center, dancing above the Lawson graves. No living cause could be seen or heard. Whether spiritual or elemental, they'd captured something, and the cold legacy of the miners lingered. Number 2. The Walker Ames House. Nestled in historic Port Gamble, Washington, the Walker Ames House is a grand Queen Anne Victorian, built in 1888 to 89 for a lumber executive, and later occupied by Edwin Ames and family. Now empty and eerie, this 4-story mansion features stained glass, original woodwork, and is widely regarded as the most haunted building in Washington. Reports include disembodied children giggling in the attic, a woman in a dark dress gazing from a window, flickering lights, and unexplained footsteps. Many paranormal groups and TV shows, including My Ghost Story, have investigated and featured it. Story 1. The Doll That Played Back. It was a crisp autumn evening in Port Gamble when a paranormal team led by Pete Orbia of Port Gamble Paranormal set up inside the Walker Ames house. Their mission, to engage with the rumored child spirits in the attic. The investigators placed a trigger toy, a small talking doll, amid old toy chests, and settled into corners with EMF meters, audio recorders, and full-spectrum cameras. The attic was cold. Within 13 minutes of the session, the EMF readings spiked. The toy sprang to life, randomly lighting up and speaking as if activated by unseen hands. Cameras caught subtle motion, shadows flitting across corners, but no visible entity. Outside, the team heard faint giggling and a childlike voice whisper, "Play with me," though no child was in sight. Downstairs, the basement held its own horrors. A crew member descended alone, only to emerge moments later with a dusty handprint across her thigh, and a stunned look that silenced the room. "I felt a hand pinch me," she later reported. Not lightly, with intent. The group also experienced flickering attic lights and doors, opening on their own. Some investigators heard ghostly footsteps, even when they were certain no one else was upstairs. A woman described feeling sorrow and dread pressing at her temples in certain rooms, like the air itself weighed on her head. In the yellow bedroom, a faint cat-like apparition darted past a closet when a red light headlamp swept across. A few seconds later, the same beam revealed nothing but thick, stale air. The surviving footage shows a glowing blur, as though someone or something passed through. When the investigation wrapped, the team couldn't deny the evidence. Objects moved, lights flickered in patterns too precise to be power surges, voices echoed. And in a house left empty for decades, full of furniture coated in dust, the presence felt alive. Story 2. The Woman in White. It was a moonlit summer night, quiet, foreboding, when a couple touring Port Gamble's Ghost Walk approached the Walker Ames house. They'd heard whispers of the woman in white who stands in the attic window, alone, every 6 weeks like clockwork. As they neared the house's front facade, the air chilled. The Victorian lights inside flickered briefly, though no one else was present. Across the street, the general store owner recalled seeing a pale figure staring from the upper windows, a childlike haunting presence, only to vanish when approached. Compelled by curiosity, the couple joined a local investigator, slipping inside through a creaking side door during a private paranormal conference event. Inside, the silence was thick enough to hear their own breath. They climbed the stairs, the wood groaning, and felt eyes watching from above. In the attic, the faint glow of a toy train flickered on a trigger toy used by investigators, lighting up when no one touched it. A female voice, distant and mournful, whispered, "Help me." Then suddenly, the attic light burst loud, flooding the small, dusty space. But no sane explanation, no wiring, no flashlight could account for the flash. The couple's investigator urged retreat. As they turned, up at the ridge, a form. A tall woman in a long dark dress, hair coiled tight, face indistinct. She held her hands folded, gazing out a small window with an expression so sorrowful it took their breath. She seemed frozen in time, dim, graceful, tragic. The Woman in White. Then she disappeared, vanishing like vapor into thin air. They fled the house, pulses pounding. Later, one of the investigators examining the footage from that night found something chilling. A face in the window, fleeting and pale, inexplicable. A spectral silhouette, but not human enough to dismiss. Some locals believe the woman once lost a child in the house, or served the family, details lost to time. Yet, every week she returns. Not to harm, perhaps, but to wait. Number 3. The Tokeland Hotel. Nestled on the windswept shores of Tokeland, Washington, the Tokeland Hotel stands as the oldest resort hotel in the state, built in 1912. Originally a booming hotspot during Prohibition, it's rumored to have hosted bootleggers and secret speakeasies. Today, guests report chilling encounters, a ghostly black cat prowling the halls, a sharply dressed man in a suit appearing unexpectedly, and mysterious piano music echoing through empty rooms. Cold drafts brush past visitors, and doors slam without cause. Staff swear these aren't just tales. Paranormal investigators and local historians have documented these eerie occurrences, cementing the hotel's haunted reputation. Story 1. The phantom piano player in the dead of night. When the sea mists crawl thick outside Tokeland Hotel, an eerie melody drifts from the lobby's grand piano, though no one has touched the keys for hours. Several guests have woken abruptly, hearing melancholic tunes that seem to come from nowhere. One night, a couple staying in room 206 heard the haunting music just after midnight. The man, a skeptic, followed the sound to the empty lobby, where the piano played softly, the keys moving seemingly on their own. Suddenly the music stopped, and a cold gust swept past him, carrying the faint scent of cigar smoke. The hotel's longtime night clerk once confided that years ago, a guest in a sharp suit died suddenly after an argument in the lobby bar. Witnesses say his spirit lingers, playing the piano to relive better days or warn the living. Story 2. The ghostly black cat. The Tokeland Hotel staff speak nervously about a mysterious black cat, seen darting through the halls but never found. Guests have reported glowing eyes watching from shadowy corners, and some say the cat brushes past them with a chilling coldness. In one chilling incident, a family staying for the weekend woke to find the cat sitting at the foot of their bed, its eyes gleaming in the dark. The cat vanished when they turned on the lights, yet the coldness in the room remained. Paranormal researchers speculate the cat is a protective spirit, linked to the hotel's bootlegging past, or perhaps a familiar of an old ghost who still prowls the building. Number 4. The Campbell House. Built in 1898 for mining magnate Amasa Campbell. The Campbell House in Spokane is a Victorian gem, now part of the Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture. Beyond its historic charm, the house is famous for eerie hauntings. Visitors and staff report seeing the apparition of a woman believed to be Campbell's wife and children wandering the halls. Unexplained footsteps echo through empty rooms, and flickering lights unsettle even the most skeptical. The Spokane Historical Society has documented many such accounts, and the house regularly features on local ghost tours, making it one of Washington's most haunted historic sites. Story 1. The Lady in the Parlor. The Campbell House in Spokane is known for its elegant Victorian architecture, but behind its beauty lies a chilling history, one that manifests in the form of an elusive apparition, known locally as the Lady in the Parlor. The story began to resurface in the early 2000s, during a special evening event hosted by the Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture, which now owns the house. The event was a gathering of history enthusiasts, eager to explore the preserved rooms and antique furnishings of the late 19th century. As the group moved through the parlor, a room filled with rich wooden furniture, delicate lace curtains, and a grand fireplace, several attendees began to feel an unexplainable chill in the air. Some said they sensed a presence watching them, even as they admired the ornate decor. Suddenly, one guest, a woman in her 40s named Susan, noticed something strange near the fireplace. There, standing almost imperceptibly in the dim light, was the figure of a woman dressed in a long, flowing Victorian gown. Her face was indistinct, blurred at the edges as if fading in and out of sight, but her posture was unmistakably elegant, her gaze fixed silently on the room's visitors. Susan pointed, calling others over. As more people gathered, the figure remained motionless for a moment before slowly vanishing into thin air. What made the experience even more unsettling was the fact that no one had seen the woman enter the room, nor had they heard any footsteps or sounds that could explain her sudden appearance. After the event, museum staff confirmed that this was not the first time visitors had reported sightings of the lady in the parlor. Historical records indicate that Amasa Campbell's wife, Emma, died tragically young under circumstances that remain unclear. Some speculate that her spirit has remained tied to the house, perhaps mourning a life cut short. Real Story 2: The Portrait That Watched. On a quiet weekday afternoon, a high school history class toured the Campbell house under the guidance of a museum docent. Among the students was Emily, tenacious and skeptical. She'd scoffed at the ghost tour hype online. That is, until she stood before the large, oil-on-canvas portrait of Amasa B. Campbell, displayed in the drawing room. As the tour progressed, Emily felt prickly unease radiate from the painting. She glanced back and couldn't shake the feeling Amasa's eyes had shifted. She dismissed it as a trick of the light. But a few steps later, her friend whispered, "Go back and look again." Reluctantly, Emily returned. This time, the eyes definitely followed her across the room. Even when she walked behind Amasa's likeness, his gaze drawn her back around. Another student swore it felt as if the portrait was watching her even breathing. The docent interrupted. "I know what you're thinking," they said softly. "It's been reported before. Many feel watched when they pass that painting. Some think that Amasa's influence lingers guardian of his domain." The words offered little comfort, but what followed was far stranger. As the group exited the room, a chandelier overhead swayed ever so slightly. No breeze. No one had touched it. A chill swept over the hallway. The class stopped in shocked silence. Later, Emily's teacher noted her voice recorder had captured a low, almost mechanical sigh-like air displaced from heavy lungs. Playback revealed no explanation, just that unsettling sound. That evening, Emily couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the soft silhouette of the painting, Amasa's eyes trailing after her, watching, waiting. Her biggest fear wasn't that spirits lingered, but that some parts of history refused to rest. Number 5. The Rucker Mansion. Perched on a hill overlooking Everett, the Rucker Mansion was built in 1905 for the influential Rucker family, who played a key role in the city's booming lumber industry. Designed in an elegant mix of Queen Anne and colonial revival styles, the mansion symbolized the wealth and prestige of its owners. Jane Rucker, the family matriarch, lived here until her death under mysterious circumstances. Over time, the property has passed through various owners but retains much of its original grandeur. Today, it remains a local landmark, its imposing presence, ornate woodwork, and panoramic views making it as captivating as the ghost stories that surround it. Story 1. The Woman in the Window. For decades, passersby have reported a strange sight: an elegantly dressed woman gazing from the upper windows of the Rucker Mansion. Paranormal historians believe this spirit is Jane Rucker herself, still keeping watch over the home she loved. One of the most chilling encounters came from a local delivery driver in the 1980s. He swore he saw a woman in early 1900s attire standing in the bay window, staring directly at him. She didn't move, didn't blink, and her expression was one of deep sadness. When he mentioned it to the property's caretaker, he was told no one had been inside the mansion at the time, especially not in that locked and unused room. Other witnesses report seeing the same figure in different rooms, always at dusk, as if waiting for someone who never arrived. Paranormal investigators have captured unexplained cold spots near the windows, along with faint EMF spikes and soft whispers on audio recordings. Story 2. The Phantom Piano. One of the mansion's eeriest legends involves a grand piano that once belonged to the Rucker family. Though the instrument is no longer in the house, guests and visitors claim to hear its music echoing through the halls late at night. A former owner recalled being awakened at 2 a.m. by the faint sound of a piano playing a slow, melancholy tune. When she crept downstairs, the music abruptly stopped, leaving only an icy chill in the air. Members of the Snohomish County Paranormal Group reported similar experiences during an overnight investigation, capturing faint piano notes on audio equipment even though the room was empty. Historical records suggest Jane Rucker was an accomplished pianist, often performing for guests in the parlor. Some believe the phantom music is her way of reliving those elegant evenings, unwilling to let go of the past. Others see it as a residual haunting, the home itself replaying fragments of happier times. Number 6. The Meeker Mansion. The Meeker Mansion, located at 312 Spring St. Puyallup, Washington, is a 17-room Italianate Victorian home built in 1890 for pioneer and hop magnate Ezra Meeker and his wife Eliza. Designed by architects Farrell and Darmer, it features ornate woodwork, stained glass, high ceilings, and 6 fireplaces. Over time, it served as a hospital, nursing home, and now operates as a museum under the Puyallup Historical Society at Meeker Mansion. Visitors and staff report paranormal phenomena, ghostly footsteps, doors opening by themselves, a lingering scent of Eliza's perfume, and an oppressive presence in the attic. These experiences are documented locally by the museum and news outlets. Story 1. The Attic Watcher. The Meeker Mansion is known for its silence but not at night. Several tours have reported that once the sun sets and the crowds thin, an oppressive hush settles over the attic. The attic, once a servant's domain and later a playroom, is one of the mansion's most unsettling spaces. It was during One Candle, a historic evenings event, when a group of history buffs decided to explore the top floor. The museum docent described the attic as dim, dusty, with a dusty wire still running across the ceiling where curtains once hung. As the group climbed the narrow stairs, a woman named Laura, a longtime volunteer, felt a sudden heaviness in her chest, as though someone invisible was watching. She kept hearing the faint rustle of skirts, though the only people present were her and the guide. Moments later, a low creak sounded from above, louder than the old floorboards should allow. The steps, slow and deliberate, echoed down the hall, yet no one else walked the corridor. The docent called out softly, but received no reply. The rustle resolved into a whisper of a sob, soft and sorrowful. Then footsteps retreated back into the attic depths. Laura later swears she saw a shape, a tall silhouette, draped in period clothing at the far end of the hallway, quickly vanishing. When the group descended, the air felt lighter, but Laura found her pen inexplicably shifted on her clipboard, and her recorder had a faint imprint of breath, her own, it turned out, but recorded in her absence. Investigators from the Puyallup Historical Society interviewed attendees afterward. Many admitted the attic made them anxious, like a memory had been buried there too forcefully. Some even caught in their audio recorders a faint phrase, "Help me," in a voice so calm it was haunting. Locals speculate the presence is Eliza, mourning the home she lost, guarding her sanctuary. Others say the attic was once used for staff, and Eliza's memory lingers near where she raised her children, watching for echoes of laughter. Whatever or whoever it is, the attic isn't empty. Some evenings, when the lights are out and the silence gathers, you might hear footsteps pacing just beyond the shadows, and the weight of a past that refuses to fade. Story 2. Perfume and snoring in the parlor. Ghost tours at the Meeker Mansion often wrap in the grand parlor, where the Meekers once hosted lively gatherings. But guests sometimes leave not with memories of warmth but unease. One winter night, a small group stayed late to photograph the parlor under low, amber lighting. As they positioned their gear, an unmistakable scent drifted, lilac and lavender. None of the women had worn perfume that evening, and no sprays had been used in preparation. One guest whispered it smelled like old-fashioned perfume, Eliza's signature. Historians said she favored lilac. As the guests debated whether it was a prank or optical illusion, the room fell unsettlingly silent. Then came a low snore, unmistakably human, and unmistakably coming from the adjacent bedroom. The parlor's guest went ghostly pale. The snoring was loud, raspy, morose. They cautiously entered the bedroom. The bed, made neatly, held no one. The snoring stopped. One woman touched the empty pillow and felt a cool press of something again. Eliza's perfume lingered. Another guest knelt, touching the empty bed, only to feel the surface vibrating lightly, as though a sleeper had just departed. Security footage later captured a momentary blur at the bedroom door. EMTs reviewing the footage described no physical presence, just a flash of movement. Audio picked up deep rumbling snore-like, though the house had no dense wiring for sound transmission. The recorder was sensitive enough to pick up the faintest breath. Staff confirmed that stories of snoring aren't uncommon. Tour guides have recounted hearing it during quiet nights, along with perfume wafting out of unknown sources. One longtime docent claims to sometimes see a figure, a tall man in pioneer attire, standing by the window, silhouetted against moonlight, listening or preparing to leave. Locals believe it's Ezra, still standing watch over their home, while Eliza drifts between rooms, her comforting scent drifting like a memory. This isn't meant to unsettle, it's a whisper from two lives that shaped Puyallup. The Meekers were passionate, dedicated, loving, and some say they simply never left. If you stand very still in the parlor, you might hear the faintest snore or catch a whiff of lilac and know that history isn't always silent. Number 7. The Lewis County Historical Museum. Built in 1912 as a bustling Northern Pacific Railway depot, the building witnessed countless departures, arrivals, and farewells, some tied to tragic accidents on the tracks. After serving the railroad for decades, it became home to the Lewis County Historical Museum, preserving the region's heritage. The building's century-old bricks and creaking floors still whisper echoes of the past, and it's these echoes, both literal and supernatural, that draw ghost hunters from far and wide. Story 1. The conductor who never left. Late one winter evening, a museum staff member stayed after hours to prepare an exhibit. The building was quiet, save for the ticking of a wall clock. Suddenly, a sharp, echoing blast of a train whistle filled the air, clear, crisp, and far too close. The staff member froze. There hadn't been an active track outside for decades. Then came the sound of footsteps, slow, heavy, and deliberate, across the hardwood floor. From the corner of her eye, she caught the shadow of a tall man in an old-fashioned conductor's uniform. His brass buttons glinted faintly, though there was no light to reflect. He passed through the center of the room, heading toward the old passenger platform, and vanished into thin air. Later, a local historian told her of a conductor killed in a 1913 derailment just miles from the depot, rumored to still walk the station, ensuring his passengers make it home. Story 2. The Whisper in the Archives. The museum's basement archive, lined with antique railway documents and photographs, is said to be one of the most active spots in the building. During an inventory, a volunteer was alone, sorting papers, when a faint voice whispered her name. She turned quickly. No one was there. She brushed it off, but minutes later, a stack of papers slid off a shelf without anyone touching them. She felt a cold draft wrap around her neck, followed by the distinct sound of a man's voice asking, "Ticket?" Shaken, she left the basement. Days later, she compared notes with other volunteers. 3 different people had heard the same word whispered in the archives, always in the same low, gravelly tone. Paranormal investigators later captured an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, of a male voice repeating the phrase, matching the exact description. Number 8. The Thornwood Castle. Built in 1911 by Chester Thorne, this 27,000-square-foot Tudor Gothic mansion was constructed using bricks imported from a 400-year-old English estate. Known as the house that love built, it was a lavish gift for Thorne's wife, Anna. Over the decades, the estate hosted prominent guests, including presidents and dignitaries. In the 1990s, it gained renewed fame as the filming location for Stephen King's miniseries Rose Red. Today it operates as a luxurious bed and breakfast, but beneath its romantic beauty lies a reputation for unexplained events, phantom footsteps, sudden chills, and a woman's face appearing in an antique mirror. Story 1. The lady in the mirror. Guests checking into the Rose Room often hear the same warning from the staff: if you look into the mirror at night, be prepared for company. One guest, Sarah Jenkins, decided to test the legend in 2012. After returning from a late dinner, she sat in front of the antique gold-framed mirror to remove her earrings. As she glanced up, she froze. Behind her reflection stood a woman in a flowing cream gown, her hair styled in an Edwardian fashion. Sarah turned instantly, but the room was empty. Thinking it was her imagination, she looked back this time. The woman was closer, her face pale and eyes glistening as though she wanted to speak. Before Sarah could react, the image blurred and faded. The next morning, Sarah learned from the innkeeper that many believe this apparition to be Anna Thorne herself, still watching over the home her husband built for her. The mirror has been examined by paranormal groups, including members of the Puget Sound Ghost Hunters, who claim to have captured an unexplained female silhouette on camera during an investigation. Skeptics argue it's a trick of light, but those who have seen her say the encounter feels heartbreakingly real, like meeting someone from another time. Story 2. The Footsteps in the Hall. In 2015, a couple from Oregon, Tom and Melissa Grant, stayed in the castle for their anniversary. Their suite overlooked the lush gardens, but it was the long, wood-paneled hallway outside their door that drew their attention. Around midnight, they heard the steady sound of footsteps pacing the corridor, measured, deliberate, almost military in rhythm. Tom peeked outside, expecting to see another guest, but the hall was empty. Yet the footsteps continued, growing louder as if approaching them. The couple stood frozen, watching the hallway where nothing could be seen but shadows shifting along the walls. Then, abruptly, the sound stopped right outside their door. Melissa swears she felt someone standing just beyond the threshold, radiating an intense, cold presence. In the morning, they shared the story with the innkeeper, who smiled knowingly. Reports of unseen footsteps have been part of Thornwood's history for decades. Some believe it's the spirit of Chester Thorne himself, still patrolling the home he cherished. Others think it could be the ghost of a former servant, keeping watch over the guests at night. Whatever the truth, the Grants left convinced that they had spent the night in a home where history still walks the halls. Number 9. The Old Tacoma City Hall. The Old Tacoma City Hall, located at 625 Commerce Street, Tacoma, WA, was built in 1893 in the ornate Italian villa style, complete with a grand clock tower and masonry walls nearly 8 feet thick at the base. After serving as Tacoma's municipal seat until 1957, it became a historical landmark, with a murky political legacy marked by scandals, and even a jail in the basement. Today, the Tacoma Historical Society includes it in ghost tours where reports of shadowy figures, solo elevator movements, phantom footsteps, and late-night bell ringing are frequently shared. Story 1. Gus the Prankster. Ghost visitors and staff at Old Tacoma City Hall commonly whisper about Gus, a mischievous spirit said to linger near the former bar area when the building housed the Tacoma Bar and Grill. The legend goes that Gus was a maintenance worker in the early 1900s who tragically died in an elevator shaft accident. His death never properly acknowledged, and now haunts the halls with mischievous intent, craving recognition even after his passing. One former bartender, Stephanie Clark, recalled how on opening day of the bar, the stove inexplicably malfunctioned and then worked seamlessly once the lunch rush ended, no mechanical fault ever found. In another chilling incident, incoming employees were shocked to see entire rows of liquor bottles topple off the shelf, one by one, yet none broke. Clark often said the prank stopped the moment someone acknowledged Gus, as if Gus simply wanted to remind them he still mattered. Beyond the bar, guards and staff still tell stories of elevators operating without request, ascending and descending floors solo. One night, a security guard arrived to find the elevator doors open halfway up a deserted shaft. The cab stood empty, lights glowing, though no one had pressed a button. That same night, he heard muffled laughter echo down the hall, as if someone unseen was doing a victory lap. Lights flicker on and off when rooms are empty. Doors lock and unlock by themselves, objects shift position on their own. A cleaning crew member once reported sweeping near the old council chamber when she suddenly felt hands guiding the broom, though not intentionally. She brushed it off at first, but the feeling returned repeatedly, even when she worked alone. Another haunting element comes from the tower bell. Several people have reported hearing the chimes ring at odd hours late at night, or just before dawn when there's no person or sign of mechanical malfunction. One manager even spent the night near the bell tower, hoping to catch a prankster, only for the chimes to ring at 3:13 a.m., with no physical cause in sight. Many believe Gus is reaching out for connection, using his pranks to remind anyone who works there that he still exists. Others say the spirits are attempting to bring attention to the building's historic struggles, its corruption, and the souls left behind in unfinished business. Whatever the truth, one fact stands: Old Tacoma City Hall doesn't just hold history. It holds Gus. Story 2. The Clock Tower Echo. The clock tower at Old Tacoma City Hall is more than an architectural relic. It houses a presence that no renovation or restoration has been able to quiet. Security staff frequently speak of odd moments when, during night shifts, they hear disembodied coughing or throat clearing near the council chamber. Sounds haunting, because no one else is supposed to be in the building. One night, a guard patrolling the second-floor hallway froze upon hearing deliberate footsteps ascending toward the tower. Expecting a fellow staffer, he spun around, but the hallway remained empty. Yet, when he climbed the stairs moments later to check, the clock's gears were still turning, but the tower platform was deserted. Another worker described a chilling experience during a weekend alone in the building's basement archive. Amid silence, he heard the unmistakable clang of the clock chime tower, despite being blocks away and outbound trains running. When he glanced up at empty stair windows, he felt immense pressure in his chest, like the weight of history exhaled down from above. Investigators have noted unusual electromagnetic fluctuations near the stairs leading to the tower. Cameras captured orbs of light drifting in front of the large, round windows below the bells. One paranormal team member managed to record a whisper of a child's voice saying "talk" just as the clock struck 4. Though no children had been present, folklore holds that the first murderers of Tacoma, like serial killer Jake Bird, served time here in the jail cell beneath the clock tower. Jake Bird famously cursed those involved in his conviction, and they allegedly suffered mysterious deaths in the following year. Some believe residual energy from those consultations and curses remain entangled within the clock's mechanics. Explorers who dared to climb into the gear room told harrowing stories. The moment their hand touched the brick wall, a bolt of energy shot through them like static electricity, powerful enough to make them stagger and reel back. One friend even described seeing a flash of someone, perhaps a silhouette, in their peripheral vision before escaping the tower entirely. A local historian once remarked that no restoration has ever been undertaken on the clock mechanism without at least one worker refusing to enter the tower ever again. The building remains a symbol of Tacoma's power, politics, and a clock that keeps time for ghosts. Number 10. The Palace Hotel. Built in 1889 during Port Townsend's boom years, The Palace Hotel was once a lavish Victorian brothel known as the Palace of Sweets. The building's ornate interiors, creaking staircases, and stained glass windows hint at its scandalous past. When prostitution was outlawed, it transformed into a respectable hotel, but many say its former residents never left. Guests describe icy hallways, the faint sound of high heels clicking, and mirrors that seem to hold faces that aren't there. Today, it's a popular stop on Port Townsend's ghost tours, with both staff and visitors swearing that the ladies of the night still entertain unseen guests. Story 1. The Lady in Red. Room 4 of the Palace Hotel is infamous among paranormal investigators, and for good reason. Guests who have stayed there often speak of a striking woman in a red dress who appears at the foot of the bed, smiling sadly before vanishing into the corner. The legend traces back to a woman named Mary, a young working girl in the late 1890s. Known for her fiery hair and crimson gowns, she was the hotel's most sought-after lady. But in 1893, she mysteriously disappeared. The official story claimed she left town with a wealthy client, but rumors whispered that she was murdered in her room after rejecting a violent suitor. No body was ever found. One chilling incident occurred in 1996. A couple from Seattle checked into room 4 for their anniversary. At around 2 a.m., the husband awoke to see a woman sitting in the old rocking chair, wearing a shimmering red gown. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared with an expression that was both sorrowful and expectant. When he blinked, she was gone, but the chair was still moving. Hotel staff confirmed multiple similar accounts, always describing her the same way: red dress, long hair, silent demeanor. One paranormal group left a recorder running in the room overnight and captured a soft female voice whispering, "Don't leave." Even skeptics have been unsettled. A contractor renovating the room in 2005 claimed his tools kept vanishing, only to reappear neatly lined up on the bed. He quit the job halfway through, insisting someone was watching every move he made. Whether Mary's spirit lingers out of longing, loneliness, or revenge, her presence is one of the Palace Hotel's most enduring and unnerving mysteries. Guests still request room 4, some hoping for a glimpse, others daring to last the night. Story 2. The Laugh in the Hall. The second-floor hallway of the Palace Hotel has a reputation for making even seasoned ghost hunters uneasy. It's not the dim lighting or the old wallpaper, it's the laughter. The phenomenon is usually described as the giggle of multiple women, light and playful, echoing faintly as though from behind closed doors. The sound often comes when the hallway is empty. Local historians say this laughter is tied to the hotel's brothel era, when clients would walk through that very hall to meet the ladies of the night. One of the most documented encounters happened in 2011. A group of tourists on a ghost tour stopped outside room 9 when the laughter began, high-pitched, overlapping, impossible to pinpoint. Their guide, a longtime Port Townsend local, froze. He later admitted he'd heard that exact sound before, years earlier, when he was alone in the building after hours. Security cameras once caught an unnerving sequence late one night in 2014. At 3:12 a.m., the hallway lights flickered, and a faint mist appeared, stretching across the corridor. Seconds later, an audio spike picked up giggling, clear enough that the night clerk downstairs thought someone had broken in. But when they checked, the hall was empty. Staff have their own chilling accounts. One housekeeper reported hearing the laughter followed by a whisper in her ear, "Stay." She turned to find no one there, yet her cleaning cart had been rolled several feet down the hallway. Skeptics argue that the sounds could be explained by old plumbing or echoes from the street below, but longtime employees dismiss that. "This isn't pipes," one said. "It's like they're right there with you, just out of sight." Today, that hallway remains one of the most requested stops on the Palace Hotel's ghost tours. Brave visitors often try to provoke a response by calling out, "We hear you." And some leave with recordings they can't explain. That's all for now. Subscribe Blink News for more haunted places, and don't forget to like this video.